Hey guys, Automatic Garage back today. We got Miss Automedic's new Excursion in the shop here, and this is the last time you're going to see it with the stock mushy springs on it. So let me show you what we're doing today. So Lee and Jackson are getting it up on the rack. So we got B code rear springs for it, and we got X code front springs for it, which those are F350 springs, those are F250 springs, 3,000 pound rating. I'm trying to remember, these are either 5,200 or 6,000 pound rating. So this should net us about maybe the ballpark of 2 inches of lift. That's not why we're doing this. We're doing it because of the drivability issue with this truck. So since y'all saw the last video of us actually getting this, I put it up on the lift first thing. I did tie rod ends, drag link. I actually had to replace the driver's side bearing hub was going bad, so I went on and did both of them. What else we did? Sway bar end links, sway bar bushings. Check the ball joints, and they are new, but man, they are tight. We got some binding going on with that too. So I actually have a new set of ball joints. I'm going to see if I can't just bust these loose and re-torque them in the right order into the right foot pound, and see if that frees up our steering at all. But I'll show y'all when we get to it. You have to, there's no just turning the spindle on this. You're fighting to turn the spindle, so it's in a bind. So we have memory steer, and it doesn't return to center on its own. So throwing the springs on today, and we're gonna see about mocking up a F350 rear sway bar on this to get all this steering fixed right, and stiffen up the ride a little bit on this. So y'all stick on with us, we got a lot of stuff to do here. So our stock height is sitting right here, this exact spot in the floor, going through the center of the hub. That's 37 3/8 is what we're at right there. On the rear here, measuring the same way, going straight through the center of the wheel hub. From the floor, I'm gonna go to that rounded part there, so I'm gonna say 39.5 to there. All right, Lee's pulling the tires off, bumper's coming off, and the reason for that is there is no way to get to your front leaf spring bolts, and we're gonna have to undo some more stuff, probably to slide the bolt out, because I don't want to have to cut bolts and reuse these factory bolts if I can. Probably gonna go on and try to do these ball joints while we're doing this whole front. So we'll knock the front springs, try to fix the ball joints, jump on the back. I'm not gonna cover doing the ball joints. I have a whole video on ball joints. We'll just know if that fixes the problem or not. Lee's undoing the U-bolts. We've got both the bolts undone for the leaf springs. I undid these rubber shield things here. I took the lower mounts off for the condenser, and I think that's going to allow this bolt to slide out. The only thing that might end up being in the way is this transmission cooler. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But we're about to have the leaf springs free from the axle, and then we can get them out. So this bolt came out easy, just cleared the trans cooler. We got the spring out. Lee's bolt came out really easy out of the rear shackle there. So we're gonna throw this new spring in. I think we'll get everything bolted up, get these U-bolts started, try to get the locating pin in here, and then go jump on the other side and do that. The only thing we undid that you didn't see, he undid his sway bar bushing on this side. The other side is with the U-bolt bracket, so that was already loose. I'm supporting the pinion with the jack so the axle doesn't try to turn on these stands while we're doing all this and it's free. So we're gonna throw the new spring in and get that one on. All right, one spring in. Wasn't too bad. We got the U-bolts just snugged up. I am gonna replace the U-bolts. We're just putting these back on here for now because the ones didn't come in that I ordered. So we're gonna jump on the other side. We'll have this front knocked out in no time. All right, this side's a little bit different. You have to take the drive shaft loose so you can get the bolt out from the shackle. Only other way you could do it would be take the upper bolt for the shackle out and drop it, but I opted just to take the drive shaft loose. Lee's got that bolt out. I'm gonna slide the bolt out the front and we'll be ready to throw the new one in. All right, new springs are all on. I gotta torque the U-bolts. I gotta torque the front and rear leaf spring bolts on both sides. And I think while I got this already to this point, it's on the lift, tires are off and everything, I'm gonna go on and address the ball joints right now. We'll jump on the rear end this afternoon, do those leaf springs on the back, and get that knocked out then. So I'm not gonna show y'all doing all the ball joint stuff, but we'll talk about it after I do it. All right, we're all back together after ball joints now. I only did the ball joints on this side. The other side is actually right, but this side, I'm gonna show you a clip right here of how bad it was. Memory steer, no return to center, over torqued, binding ball joints. Should not have to struggle to turn your spindle like this. So it is not that stiff now. I can now take my hand and I can turn the steering with both sides from here, sitting here. So it made a big difference. This side was terrible, that side was right. So I actually didn't mess with that. That's fine. They're newer ball joints. It's not like I'm replacing just ball joints on this side. I try to do all those at one time when I do them, but I think we're good. Everything's greased up. Went on through the drive shaft back on a minute ago. Shocks are back on. So we got to tighten our leaf springs up, front and rear bolts, and we got to torque our U-bolts back down, and then we should be golden. So put you on time lapse. I'm gonna do all that, and then we're gonna throw some tires on, set her down, and see what the difference is. All right, we still got to torque the U-bolts, but I'm going to set it down and let everything settle on its own weight, and then we're going to torque it. And I'm anxious to see what the height is set at. Well, I can tell you that the front bit is a good bit higher, and I know they're going to settle a little bit, but she's squatting in the back a little bit. I don't remember what my measurement was in the front. I'm going to go back and look at it. I'll tell you what, I'm going to measure it right now. 41. So I just went back and watched the video. It's a good 2.5 inches of lift. I would say for sure it's probably a little more than that. But I know they're going to settle some. I figure we'll probably get maybe a 1/2 inch of settling out of it over time. So we got to get on this back because she got some squat to her now. All right, so we got her back up on the lift. I'm gonna start tackling busting this apart on the back to get these leaves off, which I think what I'm gonna do, we're gonna take this lower bolt out, leave the shackle on the spring, take it out, move it to the new spring. Because that top bolt, I don't know that you're gonna get it to clear the frame. I don't think so. The front one, I think you gotta move these AC lines, which involves taking that bracket loose up there, I believe, and you can move them enough to get it out here on the passenger side, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. So I think what I'm going to do before I drop it down, I'm going to undo one U-bolt per side, go on and get that done up in the air. We're going to get this broke loose so that just the bolts in there, all I have to do is work the bolt out once I get it back down. Same thing here, bust it loose and get it setting down where I can take the weight off of the axle, and we'll go from there. So here's our two spring packs. The factory one on here measured 3 3/16, and this one is just a hair shy of 2 1/4. So the spring packs are pretty much the same width. I'm wondering if I can't just reuse this center pin. Granted, it'll come undone, because we're going to move all of these spacers and these bottom 2 leaves over here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 leaves. This is 4 leaves. So technically, this pack will be the same thickness as what this pack is going to be once we add 2 leaves and the spacers to it. The only difference is that the overload on the bottom is about it's a 1/2 inch thick here, and it's about 3/4 here. So we're going to add a 1/4 inch of thickness to it. So there's what we got using the factory bolt. It'll catch all the thread, especially after I tighten it up, smush it down more. I didn't really tighten down the clamp that much. I don't know. I mean, it's only for center on the axle. If it catches all the threads and it tightens up, I don't see what could be wrong with it. I think I'm going to try to roll with it. All right, so I think we're done for tonight, all because of this bolt. There's a place in Memphis. It's a good 40 minutes, 45 minutes away, but they do coil springs and leaf springs, make custom springs, re-arch stuff and all that, and they will more than likely have these, and I'll get one probably a half-inch longer, and that'll go through this spring pack just fine. So that'll just sit in the floor. So we'll catch up here when I get these bolts, and I'm willing to bet about an hour, hour and a half worth of work, and we'll have these on there. This went smoother than I thought it was going to go, honestly. So, all right, so we're back. We got our bolts. I actually went on and finished putting this spring together real quick. I was anxious to see how it was going to work and show what we did here. So it turned out real good. This is a 6-inch long bolt. We're just going to cut off the excess. I got it at O'Reilly's on my account. It had to come from a store that wasn't in town, but they sent them right to me the next day. The only difference of anything I had to do different, so this is the factory nut. And you can see that nut's bigger. And of course, it goes inside of this hole. All I did was ream it out just a little bit with my die grinder here. Not much, just enough for that nut to go in there. So this spring is ready to go back on, and I'm really, really anxious to see if this is going to give me a close to level ride height, or maybe just like a half-inch or a 3/4 rake. I'm okay with that. I just don't want it sagging in the back. I don't want the factory pitch to it with being, I don't know, whatever it was, 1.5 inches, 2 inches higher in the back. So anyways, let's get this spring on. All right, this is gonna be fun. Wrestling this in here all by myself. I got no help today. And that spring is heavier than the one that came out of it. And it's a little bit of a tight fit. So let's see what happens. All right, go up just a little bit. Ho, 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 ho.
Tell me when to stop.
Go gently. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Just go slow. Stop. So I forgot I still have one U-bolt on this side. All right, this side's free from the axle. We got our pinion supported so the axle doesn't try to turn down and we risk it falling off the jacks or anything. So I'm gonna take the rear and the front bolt out of the leaf. We're gonna get this out. I'm gonna put y'all on time lapse, break this spring down, get the 2 leaves out the bottom, add it to the other, put the new centering pin in and all that, and get it installed, and then we'll get the axle all centered up and bolt it back up. Easy, Lee. You're shaking the whole thing hard. Lee is torquing the spring bolts down. I already torqued the U-bolts down. Yes, I know you don't reuse U-bolts. There's new ones coming. This is just for getting all this together, trying it out, making sure everything works. I had to trim this bottom overload because it was, you can see where it was touching the exhaust, and I hope that's going to be enough. When it compresses, we'll see. May have to trim it some more. I don't want to rub all over the nice exhaust over here. Anyways, torquing all this down. When he's done torquing, I just have to put the AC lines, all the brackets that hold them up, back on. Because this one right here, you had to take them loose to get that bolt out, so you could pull them down just a little bit. We're gonna set it down after we throw the tires on, put the shocks back in there and the holes. We're gonna throw the front bumper on, we still haven't done that, and then I think we'll be able to go take her for a drive and see how she does. All right, we put our AC line holders back on up there. Springs are on, everything is torqued. All of our bolts for the leaf springs are torqued. I torqued all the front the other day. Tires are back on, those lug nuts are torqued. So now we're gonna set it down, or we're gonna get it down lower, put these tires on, hook the shocks back up. It's a breather for the axle just hanging around here. Need to hook that back up. Lee's finishing up on the lug nuts, and we're gonna set it down and see how it sits down. I'm really happy with how it sits. It might be a little higher in the back. I'm okay with that for towing. Let's see what the difference is with the tape. So once again, at the front here, 40, right about 40 and a half. On the rear, or 42. But looking at the outside part of the plastic, I'd say 42 and 3/4. Maybe 42 and 5/8. We'll take a quick buzz down the road in this thing. See how much more stable and stiffened up she feels. I'm impressed. I'm super happy with it. It rides, I don't want to use the word stiff. It rides solid. It feels stable. The only thing that I would like to improve more is you can still tell that it feels like it needs a rear sway bar. You go around a turn, it's just the body roll. The steering feels great, which part of that was the ball joint problem, but I do not feel like I'm just floating down the road anymore. It feels like it rides like a truck, like the way it's supposed to. We're gonna see how they settle in. It might have a little more rake to the front than I like. If we do, we'll either take maybe that overload out of the bottom. I don't know. We'll mess with the springs later, maybe if it doesn't settle out good, but I'm gonna give it a little bit of time and see how she settles. So, hey Lee.
Hi.
What are we doing?
We're taking these two off.
Why are we taking them off?
It's got rake.
It's got too much rake. It's got 2.5 inches of rake, like we said. We've driven it probably close to 100 miles. And every time I look at it coming across the parking lot, it's just not, it's not close enough to being level for me to be happy. So we're taking, let me show you specifically what we're doing. So I did even more research on this, on these forums after this. I was like, hang on, I thought it's supposed to sit relatively level doing this. You do the modded B-code spring on the back with the X or the V code, which will do about the same amount of lift on the front either way, if you want to keep about the same stock rake to the Excursion. It's not going to make it sit level. I think if you want it to sit close to level, we're going to find out from doing this. You're going to use the X code in the front, the B code in the back, unmodded, and you're going to have a pretty level lift. Now these springs are drastically stiffer on the back in the factory, so I'm not worried about tongue weight setting this down. I'm not pulling a travel trailer with it or nothing. At the most, we'll pull the 20-foot car hauler with the old F100 on it, or we'll pull the 16-foot trailer with the side-by-side and the four-wheeler on it. Nothing that has a drastic amount of tongue weight. So I'm going to show y'all what we're going to take out and experiment with now. So these are our two shortest Excursion springs that we took off of our factory Excursion. This is the B-code spring 1, 2, 3, 4, which has a higher rate, even though it's less springs. These are all Excursion spacers, which I think they say it's an 1/8 inch spacer. I'm not sure if that's a full 1/8 inch. I hadn't actually measured it, but we're gonna leave 1, 2, 3. We're gonna leave 3 of these spacers in with this B code and set the bottom one on this spacer here. Is that what we did over there, Lee? Yeah, that's what we did over there on the other side already. So we're taking these 2 leaves out and 2 spacers basically, which that would be a 1/4 inch. I think we're gonna probably take 3/4 of an inch to an inch out of the lift, which I'm okay with some rake. It was just so much rake that you look at it and you're like, whoa, back's a lot higher in the front. So let's see what happens doing this. So guys, it has been a few days later. We have driven over to the lake with the Excursion now. We actually towed the 16-foot car hauler with the side-by-side, dirt bike, a bunch of other junk that we ended up taking to the lake, Yeti cooler loaded down. Anyways, it's pretty heavy for a 16-foot trailer. So she is sitting level without a load on her now. I mean, she might be just a scotch 1/4 inch high in the back. Let me show you. But I think if you're wanting a leveled look, you're not worried about having an overabundance of tongue carrying capacity, hauling a travel trailer or something like that. I think you want to do the X springs in the front, the B springs in the back, and don't mod them if you want the leveled look. If you're worried about towing capacity and you want to keep somewhat of the rake like it had from the factory, you run the B codes fully modded with the extra 2 leaves and all the spacers in the back. The only thing I may end up doing is adding the shortest of the leaves back. I may add that one back. And I think that would fix it for what we're gonna be towing with it to work just right. So let me show you exactly what we took out of it. So this is exactly what we took out, and I zipped tied all this together because I wanted to keep it in case I wanted to add it more, or if we wanted to lift the Excursion more later. That was the other thing, is it was actually, with all these in the back, I had about that much clearance between my garage door header and the top of the Excursion. It was really close to the whole rack system thing on the top. But anyways, 2 spacers and 2 leaves. I think the only thing I would maybe possibly change again is I may add this leaf and this spacer back, just the shortest. And I think that would give it just a little bit of rake and fix it where anything that I would ever tow with the Excursion wouldn't set it down more than being level. So I love the mod. The truck drives so much better, and I won't say that it has a rough ride or a stiff ride. It just feels solid. It feels stable, way better than before. The only thing we're going to change in the future, which we will have a video on that coming up, is we're going to install the Hellwig, I think is what you call it, the way you say that brand, that heavy duty rear sway bar on the back of that thing. And I think that's really going to not stiffen up. It's really going to make it corner better. That's my main complaint. When we're driving to the lake, we're hitting curvy roads. You throw it into a curve and you just feel like that back end is just rolling so much. Front end feels like a normal 250 to me now, because it does have the sway bar on the front from the factory. So love the mod. I think if you're looking to fix your Excursion where it can tow better, ride better, feel more stable, and not feel like a pontoon boat driving down the road, do the X and the B code springs, and mod it if you want the rake or if you want the extra capacity, or leave it unmodded and throw it on there. So hope y'all enjoyed the video. I hope this helps some of you out. This wasn't crystal clear. I've read a whole bunch on forums. I watched other stuff on YouTube before I did this. And like I said, it wasn't clear to me that modding the B spring gives you the rake. I thought that modding the B spring was what was gonna give me a level, leave the truck sitting level, but that's not the case. So this Automated Garage signing out. Like, subscribe, comment, check us out at Facebook, Instagram, and Rumble. Lots more Power Stroke stuff coming. A whole lot more stuff coming in the Excursion. I'm not gonna give anything away. It's just gonna be changing the look up a little bit on it. So getting ready to pull my truck here in the shop. We got a video coming on it after this one, maybe. We'll see, whatever. Doing some stuff on it. There's some stuff on that table back here behind me. I'm not gonna give it away. So y'all stick on. We'll holler at y'all later.